Right, welcome everybody to the penultimate episode of Love Island Cast USA. I am one of your hosts, Chris Phelps, and my co-host and very good friend is Mr. Dave Horrocks.
Hey there, Chris. We're back. We're bad. You're black and I'm mad. Although you're not really black. I was just thinking about Lethal Weapon.
I'm all Riggs, I think, Dave. You could be Murtaugh. I'm sorry. I want with a loose cannon.
So, we've had a little break, haven't we? We had the weekend off. What did you make to today's episode?
You know what, Dave? I'm going to be completely honest. I've actually quite enjoyed it, and I did like the way it turned. So, obviously, we had the vote, and we got the couples together, didn't they? And we lost Kyra and Jared, who went. But Dave, there was a bit of a love thing. Now, I've called out, obviously, the US one quite a lot. I've called out the UK one a hell of a lot. But I don't know about you, and you know, tell me I'm wrong, disagree, it's no problem. But I just feel like the production value and budget on the US one is miles better than the UK one.
Really? Why do you say that?
I don't know. I feel like the music, the way it's all put together, I'm a little bit bought into the relationships. In the UK one, I just didn't believe that anybody had any sort of sustainable love or likeness for each other. It was just a couple in a convenience. With a couple of these people on the US one, I'm bought in that they actually are in love. And I never thought I'd say that when this first started, but I'm all in, Dave. And I know we can call bullshit, and I know we can call nonsense, but Cashel turning up for Kyra, Dave, what did you make of that? Because I have my opinions. I'm sure you have something completely different.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd say is I think it's less to do with the production of the US one, and it's more to do with the cynical way that we think some of the UK contestants are applying to be on the show. They've all kind of got their eye on, okay, what happens after the show? And we're starting to see, it's been a week now, hasn't it, since the UK show finished, and we're already seeing, someone's been snapped up for a show. We're getting one of the male contestants is saying, oh yeah, I wouldn't rule out a relationship with a man. And so some of that cynicism is not without foundation, whereas in the US show, it does seem to be that most people are in it for the right reasons. And I must admit, I was a little bit conflicted, to be honest. So with Kyra and Jared getting booted out, it's not the greatest shock in the world. I think Jared, like we say, good looking bloke, great body, but you're boring as fuck, mate. I'm sorry. But, again, being a little bit cynical, Kyra had annoyed me a little bit, the way she treated Cashel. Not that I had any particular sympathy for Cashel. I think he was a little bit of a wet blanket. But it was kind of sweet, wasn't it? So, it got that kind of devil and the angel. I think there was part of me that was being a little bit cynical. But then, honestly, there was part of me getting a little bit gooey as well, to be honest.
Yeah, I was. And I was trying not to, Dave. But I did keep thinking, because Kyra is the female version of Weston, I wasn't expecting to see Cash and go, you're not Eric. Just completely do another 180. But it did seem really sweet.
I brought my girlfriend.
Any chance? But anyway, no, I did. I genuinely did buy it. I was straight in. And again, though, Dave, it was Kyra and Jared. I know they were a couple, and I did say this on the last episode. It wouldn't be right if a non-couple won it as such. And I did say that on the UK one towards the end. But Weston and Emily, you know what, Dave? I'm not even liking Emily now, I'll be honest with you. I've gone off her. I'm not a big fan of Kyra anyway. I think she just taking the piss the whole way. But Weston's exactly the same as her for me. And I don't believe a word he says. And the more the show goes on, I really think I'm a bad judge of character because I just think he's an absolute blagger.
Well, this whole thing about I built my house with my bare hands, or words to that effect, I just don't buy it at all. There's putting together a house. I know we're not talking a brick house probably, but there's still a lot of work in putting in those foundations. It's not just one skill, is it? You're doing all the plumbing, you're doing the electrician, the wiring and everything. And I just don't really buy it. And the fact that he was struggling a bit with a shoe rack, and it showed if they've got any kind of chemistry, it's all on the surface because they could not work together as a team at all, or communicate even. So, yeah, it was all a bit strange, that, wasn't it? What did you make to that little task?
You stole my thunder, Dave. I totally agree. I think he's an absolute bullshit from China merchant. And he's saying to her, I built my house. And she's like, oh, let me forget the next minute. It all falls over. And then she carried on saying it. And he's like, oh, my forearms. See, for me, I think what might have happened is he's got the plans drawn up by an architect and he's had it all done. He's probably project managed it, and he's probably project managed his house build by getting involved, helping because obviously a lot of the houses in the US are built around a wood sort of structure, aren't they? In the UK, it's very much brickwork. It's very rare you do get a wooden structure. So the whole DNA and sort of blueprint is built around wood. I'm not saying you don't know what he's doing. He's obviously someone who's handy with the tools, but I agree. All right, we'll give him a bit of slack, so I'm not being a complete bellend with him. He builds the structure of the house. There's no way he's going to know how to wire that. There's certain ways you do that, Dave, and I've done electrical engineering and everything, and I haven't got a clue even now, and I did it at college and got qualifications. All right, I don't do it as a job, but there's a lot of maths goes into it, stuff like that. The way you've got to concrete everything, I don't believe it. I believe he's probably either got an inner circle of friends who are jack of all trades, the master of everything. They might have bricklayers, he might have everything, but I just don't take it. And I know this sounds really bizarre having a pop at him, but everything else he said in the villa has pretty much come back to bite him on the arse to say, you're talking utter shit, mate. So I just don't buy it at all.
Yeah, I mean, we had no real reason to question that thing about building his own house before, did we? But just everything we've seen since, we built up this picture of this nice guy, but he's full of shit. So that just calls into question everything he says, and you just pick up these little data points. But I tell you what was funny, though, Chris. I mean, we were talking last episode about the little talk between Kyra and Weston. They seem to talk at each other, but I certainly didn't feel like they actually resolved anything. And it was funny because you saw Weston when he went back to Emily and she starts asking a few questions and then she's like a bit confused herself. It's like, well, did you resolve anything or not? Where did Cashel come into all of this? So I think she's just made her mind up, though, that it's like, you know what, I'm going to stop. She probably feels like she's self-sabotaging the relationship and thinks, you know what, I trust him, that's enough. I'm going to close off, compartmentalize that little argument and just crack on with it.
Yeah, and also she could, in her head, be thinking, well, I've only got a couple of days left, so maybe I've got to play the game as such to stay in the villa. It could be that, Dave. We've seen that before. Yeah, I don't know. As we said, there's no point keep saying it. He's just a dick in my eyes, to be honest. Also, we did see Dave, and I'm totally bought into Zach and Elizabeth. They were on their date, and we had Dylan and Alexandra on their dates. I do think Zach and Elizabeth, are genuine. I'm not bought on Dylan, Dave. I think Alexandra's more into Dylan than he's into her. When she's talking and she's saying about she loves him and she really likes him, and that he never looks her in the eye. And I think that's ominous to me. I'd be very surprised if them two last outside in the real world.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I don't know if I've maybe been influenced by what other people are saying or it's genuinely I've come to that conclusion myself. But since someone said, like, he's a bit of that kind of jock character from an 80s movie, I can't really see him as anything else but that. But more so, I think he'd do well in Dude, Where's My Car? There's a scene in there where, they both got tattoos on their back and they keep turning around saying, what's my tattoo? And it's like, dude, sweet. Dude, sweet. And it's just in this never-ending circle. And I just can't help but think of him in that kind of scenario where, he's saying these sweet words, but he doesn't really mean them. So I don't know, but completely on the Zach and Elizabeth train, to be honest. I think they look very sweet. Yeah, they're a bit boring, but you know what? I think they'd be fully vindicated if they were like, well, fuck what the rest of the world thinks. We're good and fuck the lot of you. So I'd be fully behind them if they thought that. And yeah, I haven't really seen anything to doubt them like what we have done with the other couples.
No, and I think you're right. I think it's genuinely just to do with that. They've come across boring. As soon as they got together, that's it. But then again, Dave, that's life, isn't it? If you're with somebody and you're in love with them, you're not interested in anyone else. I'm not saying you'd be horrible or rude, but you genuinely are only into that person and they're still at the honeymoon stage. So at the end of the day, and I'm literally going to mean this, Dave, as well, which might not come across to some of our US listeners, but fair fucks to them both.
Yeah, I do like this. Sometimes I do find women have this secret language, that you're somehow expected to know. And Elizabeth was saying, I squeezed your hand 3 times, to tell you I loved you. But of course you didn't know what that meant. And I'm like, is that half a pop? Should he have known? Should he have picked up on that little signal? I'm not sure. But no, again, I just think it was pretty sweet. I think, who knows what people are going to vote for. But for me, if you're voting for, the top couple, the couple that you think outside the villa have got the best chance of working, then I don't think you can look past Zach and Elizabeth, to be honest.
No, I agree. And my picks as well, Dave. And also, I didn't question this on the last episode, if they were going to follow the UK format beat for beat. And it looks like they are, Dave, because we're going to get the families going in on tomorrow's episode.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to think, didn't we have... I think we might have this wrong, Chris. I think tomorrow might be the families coming in and then the final is the day after. Is that not how it went in the UK?
It did, to be fair, yes. You might be right, Dave. I could be wrong, sorry.
I think it's Wednesday night that is the final.
Yeah, I think you could be right, actually, Dave. I think that might be me jumping the gun. I'm too excited, Dave.
You shot your bolt too early, Chris.
Well, Sam will tell you that every time, Dave.
You're just trying to lure me into a false sense of security. You tell me you're nearly there. It's like when you go on these CrossFit courses, don't you? It's like 5 seconds left. 5, 4, 3.5. Oh, come on, you bastard.
No, I thought we were out, but we're just getting dragged back in, Dave. I did tweet that out the other day. Michael Corleone. Oh, it's shocking. Yeah. Anyway, if you do want to get in contact with the show, guys, on Twitter, at Love Island Cast. If you want to email the show, the loveislandcast@gmail.com. And if you do enjoy the show and you feel like you want to send us some feedback, please get on your podcast catching app and drop us a review. It just helps us grow and gets us out there to more people. So, Dave, I'm so sorry to burst your bubble, my friend, but have you got anything to leave this out to cheer us both up?
Well, on that bombshell that this is actually the penultimate episode, I'm off to throw myself out the window.
Goodbye.